Today we're going to be talking about how to lube your switches. Let's talk about the tools you'll need to lube your switches, starting out with the switch opener. They have two sides, MX style and KL style. All you will need to do is line the switch up with the corresponding side, press down gently to open, and then you can disassemble your switch. Next you'll need a brush. Something small is best. Next up, our lube. We have lube for linears, tactiles, and our springs. So if you're new to the hobby, you might be asking what's the difference between a linear and a tactile switch? Well, if you look at the stems of the switches side by side, you'll see the tactile on the legs have a little bit of a bump on them. Aside from that, each switch type requires a different style of lube. Let's go ahead and talk about how to lube linear switches. We'll go ahead and start by opening our switch with our switch opener, separating the top and bottom housing, and then separating all the switch components separately. So this is the stem of the switch, this is the spring of the switch, and this is the bottom housing of the switch. You saw earlier we took off the top housing. So for linears we'll be using 205G0. To start lubing, we will dip our brush in and wipe off any excess, leaving just a light layer of lube behind. We'll begin to brush on the rails, the back of the switch, and the legs, and any other point where the switch makes contact with the bottom housing. We will not put lube on the stem because it will create a vacuum and a very sticky bottom out. Now let's move on to lubing the bottom housing. We're going to lube the rails, the well where the spring goes, and these legs on the leaf. You can use any excess lube to brush the springs. Now to assemble. Start by placing the spring in the bottom housing, brushing the other side of the spring, placing the stem on the spring with the legs facing the leaf, and applying the top housing and pressing together slowly. There you go, you've lubed your linear. So now let's get started on how to lube your tactile switches. Once we've separated all of our parts, we're going to grab our lube. This time we'll be using a lighter lube like Tribosis 3204. Using a thinner lube like this preserves the tactility of the switch. Once we have a thin layer of lube on the brush, let's move into lubing the stem. We'll lube the stem exactly how you lubed it for linears, except we'll be avoiding the stem legs. Lubing the stem legs would reduce the tactility of the switch, which we want to avoid. On the bottom housing, we're going to do the same thing, lubing the rails, the well at the bottom of the housing, and this time, for the same reasons, we will avoid lubing the leaf. Apply a light layer of oil to the spring, put your spring into your bottom housing, lube the other side of the spring, place your stem into your spring with the legs facing the leaf, apply your top housing, and gently close everything up. Congratulations, you've now lubed a tactile switch. Now let's talk about some tips and tricks for lubing switches faster. This means that you can just lube the stem and you can avoid lubing the bottom housing altogether, because the excess lube on the stem will spread to the bottom housing. This will cut your lubing time in half, I guarantee it. Definitely give it a try. Now let's talk about bag lubing your springs. This will also cut down on your lubing time. We'll apply 4 to 6 drops of 105 oil into the bag. You can apply more or less depending on your preference. Create an air vacuum and shake vigorously for about 5 to 10 minutes. Once done, gently remove your springs from the bag. Some of them may be tangled, so be very careful. Thank you guys once again for watching, and we really hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe for more tutorials.